Hello, and welcome to the First Business Rescue podcast. My name is Chris Worden. I am the Managing Director of First Business Rescue. And welcome, whether you are joining us on YouTube, over on our podcast, or you're seeing one of these videos on our other platforms. Today, I'm going to be joined by a guest who turned into a client of First Business Rescue some months ago. And we know the people that are watching our content out there and listening to what we put out, they're in similar positions. They are in a similar position now to what David was in a few months ago. And what we're going to talk about, let me just check one of my settings on here. What we're going to talk about is sort of how he found us, what was going on for him, a little bit about his situation, and what he feels like now he's got through to the other side. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the podcast David, who was well, and still is a contractor that had been affected by IR35. Welcome to the podcast, David.
Hi, Chris. Thanks very much.
Good man.
Glad to be here, mate.
I'm glad to have you here. Thank you for taking the time out. So, first of all, David, how did you find out about First Business Rescue? Because it was, let me have a look. Hey, it was probably May last year when we took some original advice.
Yeah, it was like about 12 months ago, I think, when the letter first dropped on my desk, and I realised what trouble I was in financially.
What letter was that, mate?
So obviously, obviously it was a bad time with COVID, trying to recover from 2020, and equally, slapped with a couple of things at the same time for a contractor. I mean, getting hit with COVID and then getting hit with IR35 as well, and the basically outside IR35 contracts drying up. So any existing income that you got was now, it was difficult to pay off previous incomes because you're on a PAYE payroll. And I mean, I think I've seen them going up a little bit now, Chris, but at that time the rates were still so they were still charging or offering the same kind of contractor rate inside IR35 as outside. So there was no supplement for the fact that actually you're being hammered for, you've reduced your income. Again, the whole IR35, no holidays, no sick pay, but you're still paying the same tax as a PAYE person. And then, I mean, with COVID hit me bad because my missus lost a job. We were looking to buy a house at the same time. It was just everything came on top at the same time. And I knew IR35 was going to be a problem, obviously, before COVID. We'd known it had been postponed, obviously, for that year.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew it was coming. And I was kind of hoping that people use a bit of common sense. But what ended up happening is basically every company just didn't bother doing any due diligence. Majority, especially the banks, which I was predominantly working through banks and financial industry, they just blanket everybody IR35. Because obviously IR35, the onus is on the employer, not the employee. So rather than do any due diligence to look at if they could actually, if I was actually inside or outside, they just blanketed everybody and literally said you either go inside or go permanent or leave. So it was very difficult time.
That was a hard thing because, I mean, people are essentially, they're doing the same job for less money, aren't they? And, it's very hard to get out of that hole. And if I remember, I mean, I'll just set the scene a little bit from my original notes. I mean, you was one of the only contractors that I've ever spoke to who never took a bounce back loan. But you'd built up some HMRC arrears, and that I think that was the letter that landed on your desk that that caused you to go, oh dear, what am I going to do?
Yeah, a little bit stronger than that, but it was. I mean, I'd not taken a bounce back. I mean, my problem was basically because my partner lost her job through COVID, and because the IR35 issue and trying to cling on to any outside IR35 job I could. You know, the pot of money that most contractors put aside for VAT, for corporation tax, that was getting, you know, initially a little dip in to pay the rent, a little dip in to help with the bills. And that escalates over a year of very little work due to COVID. And then that got depleted to the point where I'd got very little money to pay HMRC. And I knew I was aware of it. And I knew it was, I didn't realize how bad it was, but I was aware of it. And I was aware of the fact that I'd gone over to such a point that I'd racked up a fairly decent sized director's loan, which I didn't again until I think it was, it had been April of that year when my accountant gave me my kind of the letter of saying, look, you know, this is where you are. You've got, we can't take that off tax. We can't take that off tax. You've not paid this. You've not paid that. So we're going to have to use this amount of money as a director's loan, which is, you know, you've got to pay back within a certain period of time. And literally, it was probably one of the scariest moments of my life, Chris, if I'm honest. I don't think I've been that scared when that letter came and I actually saw the amount and worked it out. I mean, there's things you know, as a sensible human being, a hard-working person, you think, you know what, I can get myself out of this. I'll work harder. And the IR35 thing and COVID together was restricting the amount of opportunities that were out there for the field that I work in. So then that was restricting the amount of opportunity I had to get out of it. But equally, to be fair, I've been working. You know, I'm good at what I do. So therefore, I was pretty much always in a job. But it was just so the work wasn't the big issue. It was the fact that my partners had lost their job, and it was all on me. Everything was on me. The rent, and we were paying. I mean, this is a great thing. I don't know if this is a big thank you to you, Chris. Is we were paying a massive amount of rent in a rented accommodation. We were looking to get out basically and to buy a house, and this landed at that same time. And you know, you guys were amazing in the time you gave me to sort everything out. And I just thought because I've been working all my life and I've never had massive debt.
Well, I want to just jump in for a second because I think that's important to understand and let people know that you was not. People have this connotation of directors who put people in companies into liquidation. Oh, well, you know, people do it all the time. And you know, as if some people set up a company just to liquidate it some time down the line. You would pay tax, a fair amount of tax over the years, haven't you? On time, every time. How old was the company when it went into liquidation?
6 years old, nearly 6 years old. 2021, 5 years old, 6 years old.
And you'd always earn decent money. When you earn decent money, you've got to pay decent tax, haven't you? So this is like, it was so alien for you, wasn't it? Like you say, you just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
When you know, we had our discussion, and you know, we gave some advice, and there was a bit of to-ing and fro-ing, and I think another thing I want to add. I think your original idea, you were so committed to getting out of the hole, you made an inquiry about something called a company voluntary arrangement. So even though your back was against the wall, you actually didn't want to liquidate. You said to me, if I remember rightly, Chris, I've read about these CVAs. I want to pay it back over 5 years. And I think it was me who said, David, with the uncertainty of what's going on, it's not the right, you know, it just doesn't make sense that really a voluntary liquidation is going to be the you know, the best outcome for you. So even at the final frontier, you still wanted to try and repay this over 5 years.
Yeah, I think from my perspective is, like I say, I come from a working class background originally, not too far from myself, and you know, the situation was horrific with COVID and IR35. it was a very difficult time for me and my partner. I'm divorced, so I've got 2 children to my ex-wife. So there's maintenance payments. So there's my kids relying on me, my actual blood children relying on me. There's the 3 children from my partner relying on me, my partner relying on me. But at the end of it, so like I say, so in the end, it was drip out of the tax money till it had gone. But at the end of the day, I guess the way I was brought up is it's my debt. You know, I owe that money. I should pay it back if I can. I should pay it back if I can do it. And that was in my mind, is to say, look, you know, what is the, not so much what's the route of least resistance, but it's more of a case of like, what can I do so that I don't. And there was also, to me, there was a bit of a stigma about liquidating my company. You know, it's my company. It's mine. It's my name's on it. It's me. It's like when I do my job. You know, it's my name on my work. So I've got to be happy that I'm happy with my work, because I get judged on it. You know, you get judged on what you do. And equally, I didn't want the stigma of being insolvent. I wanted to try and work it out. I wanted to pay what I owe, and I wanted to think if there was a way out of it where I could manage it. But you know, I think, and you were you know, very, 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 very straight and honest with me. And I think it's like, so you get the letter, so you look at it, and you know, if you're a half intelligent human being, you look at it and you think, bugger, I can't get out of that. That's a big hole. That's a big hole for me to get out of, and I can't see myself getting out of that. And you know, I mean, literally, you know, my legs were jelly. I was like a crazy dog walking around the house in circles for like about 3 or 4 hours, just panicking, literally panicking. How the hell? Because, like, you know, we've had plans with my partner. We're going to get a house. We're going to do this, and it just all fell away. Everything had just gone. I was like, you know, I'm going to end up being like bankrupt. I'm going to end up losing everything, including my partner. You know, I thought she'd be so annoyed with me for what I'd done, even though she knew it, even though she knew the situations behind it. And the truth of the matter is, she wouldn't. You know, she'd stand by me. She's a loving person. She understands the situation, but it all goes through
your head does a number on you, doesn't it? On a scenario like this, it's you know, we and I try and tell people that you know, if you're facing difficulties, financial difficulties in your business, for God's sake, don't keep it in your own head.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just gets worse, and all the feeling. Sorry,
I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep for like 2 days, Chris. Two days. I tried so hard, but I couldn't sleep. My brain just would not switch off. Unfortunately, because of what I do, big part of what I do is kind of doing research. So I was up all night on the computer just researching ways, you know, what happens with this, what's this, how do I get out of that, where do I go now? And that's why I came across yourself and your company, and I read the reviews, and I read all the other reviews, because some reviews can be, you know, put up by yourselves, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
all reviews that are actual genuine reviews, and I'm glad people can see that as well. You know.
So I did a lot of research to make sure that the reviews weren't like, you know, 15 people from the same IP address. So yeah, I kind of realised that they were genuine, and a lot of the material you got out there on your website made a lot of sense. And I saw the CVA approach, and I just thought, let me just try and see if through pride and whatever else, if I can try and get, you know, if I can dig myself out of this, let's try and dig it. Let's try. But more and more conversations with yourself, and more. I mean, you know, you were so good to me. And like I say, from that first conversation with you, that was the first night I'd slept in about 3 or 4 nights after that conversation with you. When I realised that it is a tunnel, and there is light at the end of it. And if you do it right, and you don't ignore it, and you do the right things, you'll get out of it. But it wasn't until I had that first conversation with you, that I thought, you know what, yeah, I can do this. It's not as horrific as I initially thought. So, you know, it's probably the worst. You know, I've never had that level of debt, Chris, ever in my life. You know, never. You know, I might have owed $1,000 or $2,000 on a credit card, you know, but never that amount of, you know, we're talking crazy money. And I'm like, how the hell do I pay that back? You know? And we thought about trying. And like you said, like you touched on earlier, and I've met people like that. You know, I've met people in my line of business that like, you know, think, oh yeah, I've been stung by it as well. You know, we bought a door from a window company that was faulty, and we went back to when we tried to get some regress to say, look, mate, you know, it's leaking, blah blah blah. It's many years ago. The company folded and reopened themselves again 2 weeks later with exactly the same name, but just slightly rearranged. So instead of like,
be careful with the name, by the way.
Yeah,
it will go on everywhere. Yeah.
Instead of like Joe Blogs, it was Blogs Joe. You know what I mean? So it was the same kind of thing, but a different. And they'd come back like that, and you were just like, wow. And we had no recourse. So, and they did it deliberately for that. So I get why people think there is people out there that do just think, oh, just don't matter.
And there's people who abuse every system, sadly, isn't there?
System.
But there's good people who are just, like you say, it's a pandemic, and you know, it's funny you said there, like big scary numbers, you know, huge numbers with your debt levels. Everybody feels the same way as well, whether they owe $5,000 or £5 million. It's all relative. Now, I won't go into the absolute minutiae of your case, but the levels of debt that you owed were on the smaller scale of things compared to what I'm used to seeing, you know. But to you and to you who's listening or watching, I'm never going to make light of your situation, because it's the biggest problem in the world to you at that moment in time, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think for me, what really helped was the fact, or what helped, probably not the right word, but what really made me feel more comfortable was the fact that you never once, it's not a problem, Dave, it's not a lot. You made me realise that actually, you know what? For you, it's quite a fair amount of money, but we can do something with it. We can make it work. You know, we can figure it out basically. And there are ways and means of getting you out of this. And like you say, to me, it was a mountain. You know, it was a mountain of money. And you never once belittled it. You never once made out that it wasn't. Don't worry about it. It's nothing. We'll sort it. You made me realise that, yeah, you know what? It is a chunk of change, but it's not the end of the world. And together we'll get through it and we'll get you out of it. Hey, and you constantly said, look, you know, the CVA thing, because like you said, you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years, and you're going to commit to something for 5 years that you don't know whether you can actually. I mean, who knew? Like, you know, exactly. Who knew about Ukraine? Who knew about at that point? You know, when we were talking about it, who knew that was going to happen with Ukraine? Who knew what was going to happen with the way that everything in the world has gone through the roof in cost, you know?
If I woke up tomorrow with 3 moons in the sky, I wouldn't be surprised, you know?
Exactly. So no one, you know, you were right. I wouldn't have seen that coming. You never know what's around the corner. And you said the best option is to liquidate, because at the end of the day, it's going to give you peace of mind. It's going to work out. We can do it, you know, we can do it well for you. You know, you were constantly, but again, to be fair, you never once threw it down my throat, mate. I mean, you were always very good at saying, look, if you want to go down the CVA route, go down the CVA route. But I would recommend, you know, if I'm to advise you, I would advise you not to bother, because it's not the right route for you. The right route for you is insolvency. But we'll go through the motions and we'll go through the CVA if that's what you want to do. You never once dissuaded me from doing it. But the more I looked into it and the more I thought about it, I just thought, you know what? I don't know what's happening around the corner. And yeah, maybe this is the best option.
Generally speaking, for those who are looking and watching this and they're thinking about a CVA, there are lots of firms that will want you to do a CVA, because the long and short of it is the practice can bill more money. And then if your CVA fails, well, you can go into liquidation anyway. So it's quite unique in that industry. There's not many firms that will talk somebody out of a CVA. But listen, we're here to give best advice, because, I mean, you're through this now. You're through what on day one was probably one of the worst times in your life. Looking back at what happened, how do you feel now about it? You know, now you're through that. You're through the tunnel, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. And I think, I just think what do I think about it? I think that I think the advice you gave me was absolutely solid. I think the advice and the assistance that you gave me all through the process has been absolutely, I can't, is priceless in terms of my mental health, shall we say, in making me feel that we can do this, and it's not the biggest thing in the world. It's not the end of my career. It's not the end of my marriage. It's not the end of my life. In effect, it's a horrible blip that through 85% circumstances beyond my control, 15% my own naivety, I've got myself into. And I guess that's why the CVA thing came, because I thought, I've got myself into this. I need to get myself out of it. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't cause COVID, and I didn't force myself to go into do the same job for a lot less money. And I didn't decide to lose my missus's job because of the industry that she's in. And it was just a horrible situation. I know lots, and like you say, with what's going on now, a lot more people are going to find themselves in that situation with the spiraling costs of everything, interest rates going up and everything else. It's going to be I'm still worried even now, but I've been fortunate, very fortunate, that I've always worked. I'm in a field where I can always work. I'm relatively healthy, touch wood. So I've always been able to. That was my saving grace. If anything, my saving grace is twofold. You as one part of it, and what you've done to help me get out of it, and be the ability to be employed and be able to pay my way out of it to a degree. Those are the two things that have really helped me. But yeah, your advice and yeah, you've really, I can't praise you enough for what you've done for me to get me to this stage.
I'll have to sort of round it up there, because otherwise I'll struggle getting out of the studio with my head. But if you want, first of all, David, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome, mate.
And having a chat with us. And if anyone's watching this or listening to us, and your business is struggling, or you see there's a problem coming up, it's important you take professional advice. Okay. Now, not your mate, not the guy down the pub. It's professional insolvency advice. Now, listen, there are some great companies in this industry. It might be the First Business Rescue podcast, but there are some other good companies. But I think we're pretty bloody good. And we offer free. Yeah, we offer free independent advice, and it's direct to focus. We will help you dig out your problems on day one. We will not sweep anything under the carpet to bite you later on. Everything gets discussed up front. Any costs, any charges, and we help you try and get over these issues. Is there anything else you would like to add to somebody out there, David, watching or listening, that is their company is struggling right now?
You can't do it on your own. You can try, but you won't do it on your own. You need, like I said, you need professional assistance. You need someone who, I know my job. So I've said to the missus about, I'm crap at DIY.
Yeah.
And but then again, I don't do decorating. That's not my job. But I wouldn't get a car mechanic to paint my house. And I wouldn't get a dog walker to fix my computer. Do you know what I mean? I'd get the people that need to do and you guys are in the field, you know what you're doing, you specialize in it. And again, I was pretty quick. I act, as soon as I got it, it was like a kick up the backside to act, to do something about it. As soon as I got that letter, it was like, do something. Okay, it was a week. It took me a week of fessing and wondering about it and panicking, but it was pretty quick. And I just thought, you know what, you can't leave it. You've got to get in touch with a professional. You don't necessarily have to. It takes time to go through the process, so it's not an immediate thing. But at least reach out for your own peace of mind and to get the ball rolling. Reach out to a professional who knows what he's doing and give you the right advice. And don't just sit on it. Don't let it drive you crazy. And don't panic and do stupid things. Just think about what you've got. Just admit it. You've got to do it. Something you've got to do. You've got to deal with it. It's the biggest problem in your life at that moment, maybe. But so then you've got to deal with it. You've got to deal. You can't just sit on it and think it's going to go away, because it's not. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until the point is that it's just really. And like I said, I didn't take a bounce back load, and I can't believe people did that are in difficulty. I know some people. I know, and I've heard some of the stories. It's like, wow. But I mean, I was never. That wasn't me. I was just in an unfortunate position. But I guess even those people, there's ways out. There's ways out of doing it if you speak to a professional, and if
There's
you're in
always
that,
options.
there's always
The
options.
earlier you seek advice, the better. So this is just to remind people, if you want to connect with us, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we are on YouTube, First Business Rescue. You will find our podcasts on iTunes and what's the other one? Spotify, First Business Rescue podcast. If you want to get in contact with us, our number is 08081968600, I think. And today once again, David, thank you so much for coming on and having a natter with us. And to those watching and listening at home, I hope you found this useful. Have a great day. All the best. Thank you for your time. God bless.